It started as a light-hearted evening, the kind you think will pass without incident. Sarah, my wife, and I were attending a small gathering at her friend's house. Everyone was laughing, sharing stories, and I felt comfortable, relaxed. Then, as if to punctuate the moment, Sarah turned to me with that mischievous glint in her eyes and said, "He's my backup husband." Her words hung in the air for a second, and a laugh escaped me before I could stop it. My mind raced through possibilities. She was joking, right? I had known Sarah for years. She had a playful side, a teasing nature that could be sharp but affectionate. But there was something about the way she said it, casually, almost with certainty, that made me pause. I laughed, matching her tone, and replied before thinking too much. "Funny, because you're my backup wife." The room went silent for a heartbeat. I realized immediately that I had crossed an invisible line between playful banter and revealing something deeper. Sarah blinked at me, her laughter faltering, replaced by a look I couldn't quite read. The moment shifted, subtly but undeniably. The joke, meant to be harmless, became a mirror. It reflected our relationship in a way I hadn't considered before. What if she wasn't fully invested, even in jest? Or what if I had always been more present in this marriage than she had? It wasn't that I doubted her love, but suddenly the balance felt questioned. I decided to observe rather than react. I watched Sarah as she interacted with others, noting the subtle changes in her demeanor. Was she still affectionate, attentive, invested? Yes, but beneath the laughter and smiles, I sensed something reserved, a distance I hadn't acknowledged before. That joke had cracked open a hidden layer I hadn't seen, and now I had to decide how to navigate it. For the rest of the evening I played along with her friends, engaging, laughing, keeping the tone light. But inside, my mind worked overtime, analyzing her words, her intentions, and the subtle dynamics of our relationship. It was clear that what had seemed like harmless humor was actually a window into her private thoughts, a perspective on me, our marriage, and how she viewed the roles we each played. After that comment, I found myself observing Sarah more closely than usual. At first, it was subtle, a glance here, a small smile there, but soon I noticed patterns I hadn't before. The way she laughed at certain things, how she sometimes checked her phone a little too often, the casual way she engaged with other men in the room. Not flirting, not overtly, but with a lightness that suggested she kept parts of herself separate, guarded. I couldn't help but think about the joke, the backup husband, backup wife dynamic. It lingered in my mind, nagging at me. Was it really just a joke? Or had she let slip a truth about how she sometimes compartmentalized our relationship? It was a strange combination of humor and honesty, like she was testing boundaries, seeing how I would respond. And I had responded with a counter-joke, revealing a side of me too, that I recognized the imbalance, but I wasn't intimidated by it. Her friends noticed too. A few exchanged quiet, knowing looks, and I felt the subtle weight of social perception settling in. For the first time, I realized that marriage wasn't just about the two of us. It existed in the eyes of others, in the space where our private jokes met public interpretation. My response, casual as it seemed, had shifted the dynamic subtly. I could feel Sarah recalibrating, assessing whether I had taken her words seriously or simply matched them with humor. Later, as we drove home, the conversation was light, almost dismissive of the evening's subtle tension. But inside I felt a quiet awareness, a spark of realization. Marriage is layered. There's the surface, visible to everyone, laughter, affection, shared smiles. And then there's the private layer, where humor, doubts, and unspoken truths reside. That joke had given me a glimpse into that hidden layer, and I knew I needed to pay attention, not just to words, but to the spaces between them. That night I reflected on our early years together, how easy it had been to laugh, to tease, to play. We had always balanced each other, each joke carrying a spark of love. But now the joke felt like a warning, a subtle reminder that even in a strong marriage, perception, humor, and truth can exist on different planes. And the way we respond in those moments determines the strength of the bond, the depth of understanding, and the resilience of the connection we've built. The next morning, I noticed the subtle change in Sarah's demeanor. She was quieter, more introspective, as if replaying the joke in her own mind. Over breakfast, I decided to address it, not with accusation or anger, but with curiosity and honesty. About last night, I started keeping my voice calm. That joke you made, it stuck with me. She looked up, A flicker of surprise in her eyes then softened. "It was just a joke," she said lightly, but there was a hint of something more, hesitation, perhaps even reflection. "I didn't mean anything serious by it." I nodded, listening. "I know you were joking," I replied, "but it made me think about us, about how we perceive each other and how much we show the world versus what we keep private." Her gaze dropped for a moment, and I could see the weight of my words settling in. She understood that this wasn't about humor. It was about awareness, about recognizing the hidden layers in our marriage. We talked, really talked, not the casual chatter of our daily routine, but an honest conversation about feelings, boundaries, and perceptions. I shared how the joke had struck me, and she admitted that she sometimes worried I wouldn't understand her private thoughts, her need for spaces to vent or tease. And in that exchange something shifted. The tension that had lingered dissipated, replaced by a quiet clarity. It wasn't dramatic or explosive. It was subtle, powerful in its simplicity. Humor had opened the door, but honesty had walked through. Sarah laughed softly, a little embarrassed, and said, "I guess we're both backups in each other's minds sometimes, aren't we?" I smiled, squeezing her hand. "Maybe, but I prefer knowing we're backups only in jest, never in reality." The lesson was clear. Even in the strongest marriages, small moments, jokes, gestures, playful comments carry weight. How we respond, how we interpret, and how we communicate in those moments defines the depth of trust and intimacy. Sarah and I continued the day with renewed awareness, a subtle understanding that even humor can reveal truths, and that those truths, when acknowledged, strengthen the bond rather than weaken it. By evening, the lightheartedness returned, richer and more grounded than before. The joke had started as playful banter, but became a catalyst for honesty and clarity. And in that I realized something essential. Laughter is precious, but insight is priceless. Understanding the layers beneath the humor, the intentions, the perceptions, the reflections, is what makes a marriage resilient, and what transforms a fleeting comment into lasting connection.